Cool. All right. Let's wait for some people to get in here before we start then. All right. Well, there we go. Now it's working. All right. What's up, everybody? I'm George. Work with Out of the Ordinary. I'm going to talk to you today about stretching and a little quick background about me if nobody's seen me before. I have a degree in nutrition and wellness. So basically, nutrition and how to keep your body just going, longevity, and how to keep yourself strong. Today, we're going to be talking about stretching and why it's so important. A lot of people neglect stretching before doing anything, waking up, working out, doing any type of activity. And it can be like super, super important for you because you can prevent so many things and it gives you so many benefits. So, first off, there's two main types of stretching. The first one is static. A lot of you've probably seen it either growing up or just people doing it at gyms, and it is when you move and hold a pose. So for instance, you can think about touching your toes and holding it. That is a static stretch. What that do is it takes your muscle and it lengthens it. And it's a great stretch. It feels good. It gets the blood flowing and it lets you feel what you're about to move. The other stretch is dynamic. If you've ever seen somebody jogging, working out, kicking their legs, doing little kick flips, whatever it is, any little movement, without it being too fast, it should be somewhat controlled, is technically a dynamic stretch. And a dynamic stretch is very important when it comes to any type of movement. You always want a dynamic stretch before any type of workout, athletic event, because it basically preps the muscle. So we're going to hop right into the benefits of stretching. Number one, improves range of motion. What is range of motion? When you, for instance, I can put my arm behind my head. That's my flexibility. Okay, so that's innate. You get it off the bat. My joints are flexible. But how far I can extend my arm up is how much I can stretch it. And the difference is when you stretch, you lengthen your muscle. So you have little muscle fibers that are all interconnected, and you just want to pull them and pull them and pull them till they stretch. So increasing your range of motion lets you perform everyday tasks, workouts, running, whatever you're looking to perform better, essentially, because you can move better. You can stretch your arm more. You can get under that table if you have to, because you have that bigger range of motion. Another benefit is it reduces pain. So if you've ever pulled something like, let's say your back, you'll notice it gets really tight. So what happens when you pull something, your muscles become almost like a ball around that to protect it, which is good, but it doesn't feel good to you. And in the beginning, your body's trying to protect itself, but eventually you need to pull those muscles back, or you're just getting a throbbing pain anytime you sit on it, or anytime you move it. All the muscles are just in a big ball. So you're trying to pull them out. It increases blood flow. How does it increase blood flow? When you stretch your muscles, blood gets pushed into your muscles. And this is important because your muscles need nutrients from your blood, and they need those nutrients and oxygen to function. So the more you stretch, the more blood gets flown into your muscles. And that's super important too, because the more blood that flows into your muscles, the more blood that's circulating around your body. And the more blood circulates around your body, it's full health benefits rather than circulation. For instance, if you have diabetes, you might have less than optimal circulation. So we want to improve that circulation via stretching. So a lot of people stretch before or after a workout because they're sore or because they're tight. Stretching before a workout can help stiffness. So I like to give the example of you're either a rubber band or a hard piece of candy, right? You walk into the gym or you walk into whatever your event is, and you're just stiff. You're that hard piece of candy. You need to stretch that candy out, okay? You need to be malleable. You need to be bendy. You need to be a Laffy Taffy where you can just bend it wherever. You can't be that hard piece of candy that just breaks. So stretching helps you pull those muscles out and lets you be flexible and lets you move. You also, there are, like I said, there's static and dynamic stretching. It's crucial to know which ones to do first. So static stretching is, remember, toes touching. You're touching your toes. You're bending over, touching your toes, and holding it for like 5 to 10 seconds, whatever, a prolonged period of time. It's good, but you don't want to do that before a workout. And why that's important is because when you static stretch, you're getting too loose. You're getting that rubber band, and you're stretching it, and you're holding it, and now it's super flexible. But let's say you want to go for a run. Let's say you want to lift some weights. It's going to snap back. That's what you want it to do. You want it to snap back. When you static stretch, it's not going to snap back like you want it. It's going to go, your muscle, you pull your muscle when you work out, and then it snaps back. So when you pull it and pull it and pull it, it's just going to stay like that and not snap back as fast, which can cause injury. But when you dynamic stretch, you're essentially pulling it, contracting, pulling, contracting, pulling, contracting, and it mimics what you're about to do. You want to always stretch roughly what you're about to do, not I'm not going to stretch my toes when I'm about to do a pull-up. Doesn't make sense, my toes, it might feel great, but it won't really benefit to what I'm trying to do. After stretching, you want to just relax. You have blood in your muscles. You don't want to go crazy with any workout. Like I said before, you can't, like I said, it reduces injury because lengthening the muscle after a workout helps you cool down. It helps, so your muscles recover. I know I've said this a lot, but blood flow to your muscles is crucial. You need that oxygen. You need those nutrients. And stretching, that's when you can do your static stretches. You want to do your static stretches after a workout. You don't want to do them before. Remember, after a workout, static stretch, because you want to pull that blood into your muscles. You want it to get stretchy. You want it to stay open to let all those nutrients in and prevent injury and help start recovering your muscles. You might not feel like not sore the next day. There's a big myth like if you stretch, you're not going to be sore at all. Like, that's not totally true, but it does reduce soreness the next day. Okay, we talked about range of motion, why it's super important. Like I said, stretching and range of motion are different. You innately are flexible. Okay, I'm sorry. Range of motion and flexibility are different. You innately are flexible. Some people can just be more flexible than other people just naturally, but you can always improve your stretching, your range of motion. And that's by going deeper into poses, deeper into stretching, pulling your arms wide, holding it. And then eventually you can go wider and wider. This will help you to go into deeper motions, to get a better stretch, to have longer strides while running, whatever it may be, to get a deeper split. I remember when I I used to do karate for a long, long time. And in the beginning, I could not do a stretch. I mean, a split. And over time, I just pushed it. And I have this photo somewhere, but I did a full split during my karate when I was like 12, 13 or something. And I felt amazing. Nowadays, I probably can't even get close, but I can work at that range of motion again. Um, so if anybody's here right now, just type in stretching. So I know you're following with me. I know we're not that deep into the conversation, but I just want to make sure everybody's with me right now. So here's some quick tips and recaps about everything we've talked about so far. So just because you're flexible doesn't mean you can stretch. I just emphasize that. I'm super flexible at times, but my range of motion isn't there. I can't sometimes squat super low. It just doesn't work. But over time, I get deeper and deeper and deeper, allowing me to get that range of motion. And remember, the range of motion isn't flexibility. Don't get just caught up in being like, I can't do it. I've never been able to squat to the floor, do a full split, grab something on the top shelf. You can lengthen yourself, which is super great for, shorter people in the chat. You can grab things a little longer, work that range of motion, stretch those muscles. Second, don't overstretch. So stretch according to what you're doing, which means, remember, the example when you're about to do a pull-up, you're not stretching your toes. It has no benefit. It's going to pump blood to your toes. You don't need that much blood in your toes. You need blood in your toes, but not all that much when you're doing a pull-up. You need it in your arms, your wrists, your back. So stretch according to what you're doing. You don't want to stretch your legs when you're doing a punching bag, etc. And also, you don't need that added flexibility when you're doing an opposite activity. So a good example is you'll need more flexibility doing karate than riding a bike. Yes, riding a bike uses your legs, but if you think about it, you're not putting your legs in a weird motion. There's one motion over and over and over doing a bike, right? It might be different types of resistances, but you don't need that extreme flexibility. For instance, karate will need where you're kick flipping, you're doing a roundhouse kick around your head and whatnot. So stretch according to what works for you and what you're doing at that moment. Like, you don't want to get injured randomly because your muscles somewhere else are super loose that you're not using and you just have all this extra blood. You want to be efficient when you're doing anything. Number 3, don't static stretch before a workout. I emphasize this. I see it all the time. I don't want to see it because I don't want people to get injured. Stretching is great. I agree. But knowing when to stretch and how to stretch is super important. Static stretching, remember, toes to heels, or fingers, hands to heels or toes. You don't static stretch before an exercise. You can increase injury when you do this. You're lengthening that muscle. You're stretching that rubber band so much it can't pop back. If you can't pop back, how are you going to perform properly? When, especially, this is super crucial when you're lifting weights. You do not want to static stretch. You can cause major injury from overstretching your muscle before you're about to lift the weight. And that's because you have all this weight and you're pushing and pushing. And as it gets to the top, the reason you get sore, fun fact, the reason you get sore isn't from pushing the weight. It's from the contraction of your muscle coming back. So your muscle does that naturally to benefit you and keep you safe, right? So you contract because it's stronger in this position. So if you're weakening that position, you're weakening your body's natural defense to getting injured. So you don't want something to snap because it's too loose. You want it nice and tight to come back. You're a rubber band. Remember that. You're a rubber band. Think of it as a rubber band. Dynamic stretching before a workout. Super important before a workout. Going for a run, jog for 5 minutes. Let's say I'm about to squat in the gym. I'm going to do air squats, or I'm going to go for a run too. It doesn't matter. Whatever you do, you can perform a dynamic stretch before a workout and increase your workout's capability. So, um, what was I going to? It was right there on the top of my head. I don't even know what I was going to say. Anyway, so whatever you're about to do a light set. Do You're about to go for a run, like I said, light jog. Anything you're about to do it with less intensity, slower, and just feel that part of your body moving. You don't necessarily need to kill it. You don't need to go till failure or be sweating. It's just a light movement to get your body ready for that workout. That's where you're that laffy taffy. You're nice and tight. You're that hard candy. You want to be a little looser. You don't want to be super loose like the rubber band where it doesn't snap back, but you want to be loose enough where you can move your muscles, you can move your arms, you can move your legs to what you need to do. Now, don't overstretch. Stretching increases your flexibility and lengthen, but you don't want it to cause pain. I see a lot of people stretching and their faces, I'm scared. I'm like, what is happening there? They look like they're getting tortured. And you don't want that. It to feel, you want to feel that pull on your muscle, but you don't want to feel pain. Pain is your body's natural defense and being like, whoa, I don't know what you're doing. I don't like it. Please stop doing it. And a lot of people are like, oh no, it's the pain is good. I need to push through it. And there might be very small instances of that, but a majority of cases are if you're feeling pain, stretching yourself, especially if you're not a trained professional. There's difference when it comes to physical therapy and chiropractic, but we're most of us aren't trained professionals when it comes to stretching. So don't stretch to failure or if it hurts. Just stretch natural pull, natural push, just to get yourself going. You don't want to pull something too much and tear it. Another rule is don't bounce when you stretch. Okay, I see a lot of people um, going for a jog and they're just bouncing around, doing everything, and or even simple dynamic stretch when it comes to working out. I see people just flailing things, and anything you do, you want it to be somewhat controlled. You don't want these crazy just movements, sporadic, because you can hurt yourself. In general, bouncing always leads to injury in some regards because it's just not controlled and you don't know where you're going to land and you don't know what you're moving and you don't know how fast you're moving at times. So remember, keep it controlled. You don't want to tear something. Let's not have to worry about you bouncing around and tearing something because that's the last thing we want to do. Another thing, so after I gave you all these tips, I want to talk about why stretching can cause or can help with longevity. So, blood flow, we talked about that, increases blood flow. Having your muscles be as healthy as possible is extremely important. You want those muscles to work as long as they can. You want them to have that range of motion until you can't walk anymore. You want to be able to do everything you can do now for as long as you can, and stretching helps with that because as you get older, your muscles get brittle, the less you use them, and they get tighter. So the way we can prevent that is by working out and stretching, keeping that blood flowing into your muscles, keeping that oxygen flowing into your muscles to keep it healthy, to keep it vibrant. So you always want to keep stretching. It should always be a pre-workout and post-workout activity you do lightly. It doesn't have to be for 30 minutes. It just can be like 2 to 5 minutes lightly. It helps you warm up and cool down, which is super important for your muscles. Another thing is it prevents injury. So the longer you're not injured, the longer you can perform your activity, which is crucial. Like just think of this in a mental aspect. When you injure yourself, you get into a little rut, you might get depressed, you might get out of your habit, and then you don't go back into it. So, for instance, if I get injured working out because I didn't stretch, I'm going to be out of commission for God knows how long. And when I come back, I'm just going to feel defeated almost because I just lost all my progress. Or I just sat in bed for a week because I couldn't move because I pulled my back because I didn't stretch or warm it up properly. And that's super important, like I said, for longevity because you want to keep doing things, you want to keep improving, and you want to stay as healthy as possible. Um, the last thing I want to talk about is just, especially if you're more wise and a little older than me, let's say, you the older you get, the more stiff and the reduced amount of flexibility you get. That's just what happens. Your joints get inflamed, less collagen in your muscles, less just less movement. Everything gets nice and rough. So because you get less flexibility, you want to have a bigger range of motion to overcome that loss of flexibility. Remember, flexibility and range of motion are two different things. One's a joint and one's innate that you're born with, and the other is your muscles lengthening. So the older you get, the more range of motion you want to retain as much as possible so you can perform your everyday things. We don't want to rely on others. We want to rely on ourselves. It helps us. It keeps our muscles strong. It keeps them flexible, vibrant, and just healthy. So those are my tips on flexible or being flexible and stretching. Stretching, remember guys, super important. I'm going to go over one more time about static and dynamic. Static and dynamic is static. You hold it for a prolonged period of time, touching your fingers to your toes and holding it for 5 to 10 seconds, whatever it may be, a prolonged amount of time. You want to do this after working out. If you're going to do it, do not do it before working out. You can cause injury. Dynamic stretching is when you perform an activity lightly before you do that activity. For instance, you're going for a run, you're going to do a light jog. These help you reduce injury, reduce soreness, and keep you going. If you guys have any other questions or want a whole guide on stretching, let me know. I will send them to you. I will get you going. And remember, keep stretching every day. Thank you guys.